What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So yesterday we did have the Video Game Award livestream that revealed all of the different nominations, which does include for Game of the Year, and that's obviously led to some controversy online. We'll go over that one here today. Also, we're going to be talking about a new bombshell report from the Wall Street Journal centering around Activision, but specifically Bobby Kotick, which has now led to employees at Activision calling for his job. And we're also going to be talking about a new Dragon Ball Z game announcement that I don't think anyone saw coming. Guys, if you enjoyed these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below and ring that notification bell so you can keep up to date with all the uploads here on the channel. And we're going to start today with Halo Infinite. It's out now, at least the multiplayer beta. It's free to play. You can just download it on your PC or your Xbox and start playing right now. And for the most part, I've been having a blast with this game, and it looks like a lot of other people have as well. We can see this over on SteamDB, showing the highest concurrent player count we've ever seen for a Microsoft released game at a 24-hour peak of 272,586 players. That is massive for Microsoft. And remember, this is just on Steam, so this doesn't count through like the Windows application, like the Windows Store, that Xbox app they have on PC currently, and on the Xbox itself. We saw Forza Horizon 5 touch numbers over 8 million players, and I have a feeling Halo Infinite's going to run up to that very, very quickly, and I'm sure Microsoft or Xbox will talk about those numbers as we get to that point. But Halo Infinite off to a fast start. I've seen a lot of people talking about it online, very positive talk around it, except for the progression system. I'll be sharing my thoughts more so on Halo Infinite and my time with the game this weekend, go over some of the things I like and some of the things I don't like. But yeah, for a multiplayer beta, a lot of hype around it, excitement, and yeah, pretty high concurrent player count to get started. Also, we did have Shin Megami Tensei 5 release last week, and my copy finally showed up, but unfortunately I'm playing Halo Infinite now, and this is like a 60, 70 hour game. I will get to it in time, but we know, of course, it's a game that we saw with the Switch when it was first revealed in that big presentation, and finally it's now arrived. But as people have looked through the game, specifically data mining it, they found a couple of other platforms that were in there. We can see this posted up over on Twitter. This was from Regular saying the name is Edible Mesh, enabled false, but then down below that, target platforms, PlayStation 4, Switch, and Windows, no editor. So basically, we know it's on the Switch now. Could it be coming to the PlayStation and also Windows? Because remember, that was also mentioned in that NVIDIA GeForce leak. And we saw a lot of games in there that have now come true. Like God of War is one of the biggest profile games that was in there. So people are looking at that GeForce leak a bit more carefully now. Then we see this in the code itself. And yeah, it's possible that this could be like a one-year timed exclusive with Nintendo. I know a lot of people are looking at it saying, well, no, that seems like something that will just be a Nintendo Switch title. However, we've been seeing this with Nintendo and third-party companies as these timed exclusives. Octopath Traveler, well, that's on the Xbox now. Bravely Default 2, it's on the PC. So at the very minimum, I wouldn't be surprised to see Shin Megami Tensei 5 head to PC, whether it's half a year to a year after its release last week, but I guess we'll find out as we head into next year. Oh, and we are going to be talking about Activision here pretty soon, but I also want to talk about Call of Duty Vanguard, as that is part of the business side of things with Activision that can sway some decisions, we'll say, going into the future. But take a look at this here. This was sourced by VGC with their own sources, saying subsequent data shared by VGC's own sources suggests that Vanguard was actually Call of Duty's lowest performing launch, this being in the UK, in 14 years. Opening week was down 40% year on year when you compare it to Call of Duty's previous premium entry, that being Black Ops Cold War. I'm not really surprised to hear this because looking around, I just don't see a lot of people excited for Call of Duty Vanguard. I mean, I even tried it out and it was just like, sure, it's not a very compelling entry for Call of Duty, but now to look back 14 years, and remember, those are boxed copy sales in the UK, and those are already kind of declining anyway, but still, you feel like there'd just be more excitement around Call of Duty, which is a massive franchise in gaming, but I just haven't seen it. In fact, I've seen more excitement around something like Battlefield or, yeah, Halo. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with the Video Game Awards. There are a ton of categories that you can go vote on starting right now, and I'll link to their website down below so you can get those votes in. But yeah, we got the nominations for Game of the Year, and there's quite a bit of discussion online around it. We'll get to that, but first, let's take a look at the list here. IGN posted this up in text format so we can scroll through it a bit easier here. You can see, for example, Best Indie Game, which is one I was curious about, but 12 Minutes, Death's Door, Kena Bridge of Spirits, Inscription, and Loop Hero. I'm pulling for Death's Door here. I wanted to see Death's Door win some sort of award. I figured as we had more and more games come out that would find its way into Game of the Year, probably would get pushed out of that. So Best Indie Game, I think, is a good spot for it there. Best Art Direction is Deathloop, Kena Bridge of Spirits, Psychonauts 2, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, and The Artful Escape. Looking at these, I'm not as familiar with The Artful Escape, but I would probably go with something like Psychonauts 2. It's a very creative game when it comes to its art direction there. Best Narrative, Deathloop, It Takes Two, Life is Strange, True Colors, Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, and Psychonauts 2. And then we have the Game of the Year. This is one that caused, like I said, a lot of conversation online. Almost as much conversation around Best RPG of the Year. I had to show this first. Bit of a fake out here because Cyberpunk 2077 is on the list alongside Monster Hunter Rise, Scarlet Nexus, Shin Megami Tensei 5, and Tales of Arise. So let me know what you think. Will Cyberpunk 2077 really take Best RPG over Shin Megami Tensei 5 or Tales of Arise? That would certainly be something to announce. But anyway, back to Game of the Year. We have Deathloop, It Takes Two, Metroid Dread, Psychonauts 2, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, and Resident Evil Village. And looking at this list, I actually had all of these right except for Resident Evil Village. I did take that out and put Forza Horizon 5 in. I figured, you know what? If we're ever going to get a racing game in the Game of the Year category, it's got to be Forza Horizon 5. I don't know if we'll ever see a racing game that shows up that is as good as Forza Horizon 5 unless we have some massive paradigm shifting moment with the racing category. But having Deathloop and It Takes Two, Metroid Dread, Psychonauts 2, Ratchet & Clank, otherwise, I think expected. In fact, the game that has the most nominations here this year is Deathloop, and that's one that's come up several times. I did enjoy Deathloop, minus the ending. I don't want to get into spoiler territory there. Otherwise, though, I kind of lean towards Deathloop taking this. Just thinking about how the votes are tallied up, it's split between judges. I know people online will get the vote, obviously, and that'll get thrown into the pool, but I kind of think it could be leaning in its favor. I would love to see Metroid Dread win. I mean, just a 2D game like that taking the big Game of the Year prize would be pretty cool. And of course, it's Metroid. So to see that big resurgence for 2D Metroid that same year that it wins Game of the Year would be pretty cool. But the two games that were left out here that seem to be causing a lot of discussion was Returnal and Forza Horizon 5. Forza Horizon 5 is technically the best rated game of the year, but because it's a racing game, it found its way into the sports and racing category where I assume it's going to win unless somehow Riders Republic, which actually Riders Republic is not that bad of a game. I've been playing it and it's pretty fun. I don't know if it's not like a game that has like deep lore or anything, but neither does Forza Horizon 5. But still, I think it's going to take that category at least. But to me, it being the best rated game and probably the best racing game we're going to see in a long time, if ever, probably could have found its way into the Game of the Year in a year that didn't have that big Breath of the Wild or God of War or Last of Us or anything there. Returnal, unfortunately, is kind of the victim of there just being so many games around it that were slightly better, I would say, and it just kind of got pushed out of the Game of the Year conversation. I would have been shocked to see it in Resident Evil Village's place. That's probably the one that surprised me the most was RE Village, but otherwise, I think it's at least a compelling lineup here for Game of the Year because I'm looking up and down the list, any of these games can win. Let me know actually which one you think will take home the big prize at the end of the year. Next up, let's talk about Activision and Bobby Kotick. There was a massive report that was put out by the Wall Street Journal yesterday. This on the heels of the entire lawsuit that was being put against Activision from the state of California after years of investigation around misconduct at Activision. And well, it looks like Bobby Kotick was a bit more involved than people were originally thinking. We can see this over on the Wall Street Journal. Activision CEO Bobby Kotick knew for years about sexual misconduct allegations at video game giant. Now, it is behind a paywall for the Wall Street Journal. However, the author of this report did put out a series of tweets kind of summarizing some of the major points, so I'll link to both the article, which you should check out, as well as the Twitter thread. But after this report was published, a bunch of other outlets started looking around and reaching out to Activision and their PR, and look at some of these headlines. Activision's CEO, Bobby Kotick, threatened to have his former assistant killed, according to a bombshell new investigation. This was apparently 16 years ago, where he left a voicemail to his assistant threatening to kill them, which I don't know if this was in a joking manner or not, but that's probably not something you should joke about with an assistant when you have access to a private jet. According to Business Insider, an Activision spokesperson said in an email to Insider that Mr. Kotick quickly apologized 16 years ago. The representative referred to Kotick's threat as obviously hyperbolic and inappropriate, and said that he deeply regrets the exaggeration and tone in the message. However, the biggest thing here about this whole report is that Bobby Kotick was aware of multiple sexual misconduct allegations at the company, and he withheld them from the board, essentially trying to hide a lot of this, which, I mean, if you're Bobby Kotick and you're in charge of the bottom line, obviously that's what you're going to do, but it looks like people at Activision, employees, we're not having it. We can see this tweet here. We have instituted our own zero tolerance policy. We will not be silenced until Bobby Kotick has been replaced as CEO, and continue to hold our original demand for third-party review by an employee chosen source. We are staging a walkout today. We welcome you to join us. This was in response to a video that Bobby Kotick had put out to the company internally, and there was a transcription that was put on their website saying, over the last few months, so many of you have generously and candidly shared your experience and your insights about the type of company you want us to be. There will, of course, be continued media attention about us and our industry over the next few months. In fact, there's an article today that paints an inaccurate and misleading view of our company, of me personally, and my leadership. I want to say two important things about this. First, we are incredibly fortunate to have the most talented people in our industry, also committed to constant improvement, and I share this commitment. The second thing I want to say is that anyone who doubts my conviction to be the most welcoming, inclusive workplace doesn't really appreciate how important this is to me. So that's one way to respond to the mountain of evidence and allegations that was sourced by the Wall Street Journal. However, we are already starting to see some effects with that Wall Street Journal article, that report, because we can see here, for example, on Polygon, Call of Duty studio head quits after sexual harassment accusation report. Treyarch co-lead Dan Bunting has left the Call of Duty Black Ops studio. This was confirmed from Activision to Polygon, and this was all around a story where back in 2017, there were allegations and even a lawsuit that was settled out of court from a female employee saying that Dan Bunting had sexually harassed her. And I guess Wall Street Journal looked into this, obviously was pressing the matter, and Dan Bunting was just like, nope, I'm leaving, that's it. I mean, that's kind of the thing that we're seeing here now continue to break. More and more things keep coming out from this. What's going on with Activision and what's going on with Bobby Kotick? As people are continuing to call for his job, what are investors saying about this? Well, we can see this posted up by Jason Schreier over on Twitter from the Activision Blizzard Board of Directors. They released the following statement saying the Activision Blizzard board remains committed to the goal of making Activision Blizzard the most welcoming and inclusive company in the industry. Under Bobby Kotick's leadership, the company is already implementing industry-leading changes, including a zero-tolerance harassment policy, a dedication to achieving significant increases to the percentages of women and non-binary people in our workforce, and significant internal and external investments to accelerate opportunities for diverse talent. The board remains confident that Bobby Kotick appropriately addressed workplace issues brought to his attention. The goals we have set for ourselves are both critical and ambitious. The board remains confident in Bobby Kotick's leadership, commitment, and ability to achieve these goals. Which really means, hey, our bottom line hasn't been affected yet, so we're not ready to completely shake things up just yet with the leadership and CEO at Activision. Now, if we get to a point where things are really getting affected when it comes to, money, then there's gonna be a problem. That's one of the reasons I pointed out Call of Duty Vanguard having a pretty bad year so far, all things considered, for Call of Duty. Could it be because of everything swirling around Activision right now with the lawsuit, this explosive report? Not necessarily. Like I said, I just feel like the mainstream that typically buys Call of Duty is just not as compelled to do it this year. Most of them probably aren't even aware of what's really going on with Activision in this whole lawsuit, but still, it's something to keep in mind because Bobby Kotick steered the ship in the way of, we're going to put all these studios around Call of Duty, make sure it gets out there. So if they have a bit of a slump and this is all still going on, yeah, you're probably going to see the board of directors start to distance themselves a bit, or if more and more stuff comes out, because it's pretty clear there's a magnifying glass over Bobby Kotick right now. So what else do you think all of these outlets are gonna find? And then on top of that, there's the whole image situation. Activision doesn't look very good right now. Do you think a lot of people want to go work for Activision? Do you think a lot of people want to stay at Activision? And right now, it's actually pretty difficult to find talent in the games industry when it comes to developers. We've seen some studios like we saw the Initiative have to essentially partner with Crystal Dynamics to make sure Perfect Dark could get done. So if you have a studio that's known for what we're seeing here currently with this lawsuit, would you really want to go work there? And I mean, let's face it, Bobby Kotick half the time has devil horns put on his head online. Like he said he didn't like that. Well, you see these kind of reports, you might want to get used to it. And unfortunately, I don't think anything's going to happen to Bobby Kotick yet. I still think there needs to be more coming out there that the board of directors have to waver on a bit because, like I said, as long as that bottom line remains more or less unaffected, I think they're going to stick behind him, even with all of this stuff happening in the public eye. But we'll see as we go along if more stuff is uncovered and how things look going into next year with Call of Duty Vanguard sales data being out there. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about a new Dragon Ball Z game that was announced. It's called Dragon Ball Breakers. And I first saw this trailer pop up and I had no idea what I was looking at first, and then it started to become pretty clear. It's going to be like this asymmetrical multiplayer game where you have one really powerful person against a bunch of weaker survivors, and it's kind of similar to what we see with Dead by Daylight or Friday the 13th. There's a full trailer that was put out, and like I said, it seemed to confuse everyone because it caught everyone off guard. I don't think anyone was expecting this kind of Dragon Ball game to be announced, but here we are, and we can see some of the trailer here. This is coming out in 2022. There will be a closed beta test specifically for PC, but the game will release on PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Series X and S, and Nintendo Switch alongside PC in 2022. They do have Cell, Boo, and Frieza as the main, I guess, big characters that you will have against several survivors who are trying to fight back or I guess just escape, as they show some characters basically loading into the time machine, getting away there, or just kind of jetting off. And they also show like Cell shooting a Kamea wave at them and like blowing all this stuff up, but also evolving from his larva stage all the way up to Perfect Cell, where I assume he'll just wipe everyone out. And I believe this is being done by Dimps, who generally does Xenoverse, so that was close. We almost had a Xenoverse 3 there, but you know what? They're at least trying something different. Who knows? Maybe it could turn out to be a really fun multiplayer game, and we'll eventually, I'm sure, get the next Xenoverse, as they don't seem to want to let that series go away. But we'll see how this goes as we head into next year. Like I said, at least it's unique and it's different. I don't know if a lot of people were calling for this necessarily, but that asymmetric multiplayer seems to work sometimes. Didn't really work for Evolve, but people seem to really like Dead by Daylight, so we'll see if they can pull something like this off. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're taking a little poll that I posted up yesterday, where I asked, have you played the Max Payne series before? Hey, 43% said yes, I've played at least one game of the series. 57% said no, I've never played Max Payne. Stop what you're doing right now. Go to the Xbox store and start downloading them. Buy them, pick them up. Although if you can get them physically, I think you can get them a little cheaper than what they are on the Xbox store now, and they'll work if you just pop them in. Max Payne 3 is awesome. But the original were really cool too. Back in the day, I remember I got them on my PC and it was such a cool experience. It was of course, the diving in slow motion. You just do that over and over again because it was a lot of fun even back then. I mean, it's still fun now, but it's certainly a really cool series to get into. And I think I don't want to say they've aged the best, but I think you can still go back, have a lot of fun with the first one, the second one, and then have an absolute blast with the third. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This is from Lopez saying, why do we accept as normal that 99% of games must be patched to get a decent performance? Just kind of how it is now. I mean, back when we were first getting things like downloadable content and patches becoming, I guess, possible, well, we saw what happened. It became normalized. I mean, back in the day, it's a double-edged sword though, because back in the day, if you bought a game and there was a game-breaking bug on that disc for the PS2 or the Xbox or the GameCube, that was it. They weren't fixing it. They'd eventually maybe release a second version of that game with it fixed, but like if you stuck with the original, that was kind of it. Like you weren't going to be able to do much. Now you can patch that out, which is great. Unfortunately, we all see that with big day one patches. It's very clear that the game maybe left development a bit too early, so what you get on that disc or that cartridge isn't really the completed best version of that game. It's just kind of where we are now with the digital age quickly approaching, where it won't really matter because you're just going to download the latest version either way when you buy it. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button, it really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. Was the whole Activision situation. Things are not looking good for Bobby Kotick. Unfortunately, we kind of know how this game is played, but let me know if you think he'll be out here pretty soon. Also, what about that Dragon Ball Z game, Dragon Ball Breakers? Were you expecting that reveal? And then the Game of the Year nominations. Let me know which game you think should win it. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.